All right, we are here with a student and whose voice you won't hear, so I'll say whatever they say. To talk about making sense of the negation of conditional statements, but we're going to do a quick review of conditional statements that frequently confuse people anyway. A lot of people are helped by watching the if you pass the class, then your dad will buy you Quiznos. Was that the video? Did you watch that one? Student whose name I'm not mentioning? Okay, yes, it was passing a class and getting Quiznos, but for some reason I wanted to like lower the stakes on this one and have it just be passing a test and getting quesadillas, because quesadillas are awesome and yummy all the time. So awesome. We're going to review just the conditional, which I'm going to make the statement. Here's the conditional of that. Conditional statement is if P then Q is the standard format for writing that. There's other ways that it'll be shown, but that's the standard conditional. So if the way I kind of like to highlight things and be like, look, if pass, then what other color do I have? Pink. If pass, then Q. So if P, then Q. If you pass, then you get quesadillas. So awesome. We're going to write up the basic truth table to make sense of the negation. So we've got P's and Q's. Do you remember what order all this stuff has to go in? Student who remains nameless. Okay. No, and a lot of people don't, which is why I allow pages of notes. There's a standard format. You do those two true, and then these two false, and then you do true, false, true, false. And now that looks familiar, yeah? Okay, and I think in the textbook we're using this semester, they almost always give you that. Is that true? Do they usually give you this part? Yeah, so I think it's so much more helpful to have to write it out. And I need lines because I get lost all the time. All right, so if you remember if you pass, then you get Quiznos. So that it's kind of like a promise. If Abe passes the test, he rewards himself with getting quesadillas. He says, I'm going to do this almost like I always do this, kind of. He doesn't say always, but. So in this case, he passed the test, and then he ate quesadillas. So this is, in this case, a true statement, right? Okay, so true statement here. And then here, he passed the test, but he didn't eat quesadillas. What's up with that? Is that okay? No, he's like lying to himself. Like, you gotta, there's little happy things, you gotta do it. Like, so in this case, it was a false statement because he passed the test, but he didn't have quesadillas, and that's just not okay. So here, did he pass the test? No, he didn't pass the test. Did he eat quesadillas? Yes. And is that okay to not pass the test, but you still eat quesadillas? Yeah, that's okay. That's not, because it's only, this arrow going one way is really meaningful. It only says what happens if you pass the test. It doesn't say anything about what happens if you don't pass the test. So not passing the test, you can still have quesadillas. What if the only thing you have in your fridge is cheese and tortillas? You got to eat something. So yeah, you hear me? Okay, so in this case, did he pass the test? Did he eat quesadillas? Okay. I just remembered why I used the name Abe. And I probably shouldn't say this because we're recording, but I don't care. My first crush, the second crush, was an Abe. He was handsome. Yes. Okay. All right. So off task. So here's our truth table for a basic implication. But now that's the conditional statement. I call it implication. Whatever. We need to talk about the negation. And what you want to do, there's several things you want to do. You want to have this lovely thing here. I need to find one other color. I've already got pink and green. Highlight maybe? I don't know if you'll be able to see this. No, there's already highlighter. Whatever. You definitely want to put this on your page of notes before the test, because like, why wouldn't you? You know, you get a page of notes, write useful stuff on it. So you want to put that on your page of notes. But you're like, okay, I have all these letters and symbols and crap, and it's on my page of notes. What good does that do me? So we're going to look at this a slightly different way. Instead of just the negation of the conditional being negation, and then the stuff that we know is the conditional statement, the P arrow Q, P implies Q, if P then Q, is the same as P and not Q. I'm going to look at it a slightly different way. Instead of just the negation of that, I'm going to negate it by saying it is not true that if Abe passes the test, then Abe will eat quesadillas. Okay, so it's saying, so negating something falsifies whatever it was before. So where in this truth table do we have it falsified? Yeah, right here. So right here is the only situation where if Abe passes the test, then he will eat quesadillas becomes a false statement. If he passed the test, but he didn't eat quesadillas, or in the place before it made more sense because it was a promise. Yeah, I should have used the other example. So, but whatever it is, the only thing is if you say if this, then that, and you do the this, but you don't do the that, then you lied. So that's the negation of the conditional. Yeah, so that makes sense to you, yeah? So that means that you pass the test, which there it is, P, pass the test, and, whoop, you didn't get quesadillas, and not Q. So pass the test and didn't eat quesadillas. So that's the only case that makes this false. So that's the negation of the conditional. Does that kind of make it make sense beyond symbols? Okay. It's still weird, but a little better. Okay, so then I'm going to write the negation. So it's not true that if Abe passes the test, then he will eat quesadillas. The only case that that statement is not true is if Abe passes the test and he does not eat quesadillas. So I'm going to highlight a few more things to make a little more sense of this, as long as I have the same colors as I did before. So we've got the P implies Q as the, oh shoot, Q was supposed to be pink. Can I make that pink and not mess this up? Pink. Now it's a mess. So what we need now is P and not Q. And P is this whole passing the test. So here's passing the test and not Q. So P and not Q is another way. So if you just want to like get through it, then you figure out what the first statement is, what the second statement is, and you do P and not Q, which is kind of what we're going to need to do with some of those problems that we were looking at a little bit ago. Let's, did this kind of make it make more sense to see that the P and not Q is just, it's this right here. P and not Q. So it actually does make sense. It's not just some crud to memorize, but but even though it's not some crud to memorize, since you do get notes, please, 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 please put this on your page of notes. Okay, and I would even call it the negation of the conditional, highlight some stuff, I don't know. So let's do an example that might be in the book. Okay, so here's a problem you might see in the book within the conditional statement, but this is a god-awful, ugly conditional statement. Do you agree with me? Yeah, like it's all sorts of stuff all over the place. So with lots of mathematics, first off, you're going to have your page of notes, which is going to have this formula that I told you you've got to put on your page of notes. It's there, you need it, make sure you have it, it's got to be on your page of notes. So put this on your page of notes because you're not going to remember the reasoning that I just went over a little while ago if you're nervous and taking a test. But you got to have this on your cheat sheet. Oh, I'm so glad you couldn't see the yellow. I just wrote it all on the video. Anyway, this definitely have that on your page of notes and have it with you when you take the test. You have your conditional. Here's the conditional. Well, no. Okay, here's the conditional. And then when you negate the conditional, it's the same as this statement. So the original conditional, woo, is just that P, if P, then Q. So any conditional is if P, then Q. And then when you negate it, you get P and not Q. So, but this is way more than P's and Q's, so let's figure this out. Let's make P, the passing, be green because it's good, and Q, the quesadillas, be orange because cheese is orange. Well, not really. Not all cheese, but whatever. So green, then orange, P, then Q. So all we got to do here to negate this is identify our P's. I'm actually going to make this look like a P. P. Whoop. And a big old fat Q. Q. So now we've got if P, then Q. Does it look pretty silly? Okay, so if P, then Q. And to negate that, so what the question is asking us to do, And they do this all the time. They like to mess with you and have you do stuff that's probably not going to be that logical. And I can see places where this could be a sentence, but we're not going to get into this because that's not what's being asked most likely in this one. So we're going to negate the following conditional. The conditional is if this, then that. If P, if green blob, then orange blob. But we want to negate it. So that means we need to do this, negate this. Okay, does that make sense for negating something? Okay, so we're going to negate all this stuff, and all of a sudden we now have something that looks like this. Negating P then Q, so we can just stick it in this format. We want P and not Q, so I'm going to write P, and I'm going to write and in some color with something, and I'm going to write not, and I'm going to write Q. Where's my orange? Q. P and not Q. How's that? Except we're not done, right? Okay, so what's P? P is the not C, so not C. And what's a Q? A and not B. So this looks kind of weird because of my ugly P's and Q's. So, but literally doing this and just making the P in a color and the Q in a color, or even a big P and Q with pencil. And then the final negation, which you can type into your online program of whatever sort it is A and not B. So there's my P, there's my Q, and we need that not, which isn't going to be red when you type it, so I guess I'll make it not red, but I don't know, I kind of like red knots, so I'm probably going to make it red also. But so when you type into your final thing, and you're in the program right now, aren't you? So you can type that in right now, and that's how you negate funkier conditionals. Good? Cool? How did I know to add the not in front of the A? Because the you mean the Q? Yeah, because it was here. Does that make sense? I went right, and I sometimes like to even have the formula like right above. Like if I wrote smaller, I could have this right above this, and then this I could write the next part over there. But I just took it straight from the formula, P and not Q. That's partially what I did, and partially what I did in my head was to go back to this because this makes sense to me, and it might make eventually make sense to you too. Or part of it did today. But so yeah, I just literally took the darn formula I wrote on my cheat sheet because I'm nervous and I'm taking a test, and I put, okay, we're negating this thing, and then I was like, well, there's blob implies other blob, and I just didn't even look inside of the blobs. Does that kind of make sense, even though blobs isn't very professional? Okay. All right, good. Then I'm going to stop here, and we'll go over another problem in a second.